Round two, motherfuckers. You want to go about Black Lives Matter? That this was all racism relating to George Floyd's death. Black Lives Matter. Yeah, right, you fucking assholes. Black Lives Matter, except when it comes to Federal Officer David Underwood, who was gunned down protecting a federal building during riots. Somebody in a white van comes along, shoots the fuck out of the building, kills Mr. Underwood, wounds another guard. Where is your outrage about that? Black Lives Matter, except when it comes to retired police captain David Dawn, who responded to an alarm at a pawn shop in St. Louis and was gunned down during the riots. Are you seeing the connection here? Your riots, your protests for Black Lives Matter, we want equality, and you're killing black people. Where is your outrage for those deaths? You fucking hypocrites. You bunch of fucking assholes. You kill people to justify what? Why? You're looting innocent businesses. You're assaulting people. You are killing people because of one man's death. One man who, by the way, the officers involved have all been charged with second-degree murder, or at least aiding and abetting the second-degree murder. The guy that had his knee on Floyd's neck is the one charged with second-degree murder. The other three are aiding and abetting. Why are you still going? You've now got protests and riots over here in the UK. A bit late after the rest of the riots in the US. Let's jump on the bandwagon. Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. But none of you are talking about the people that you've killed, the black people that you've killed, the white people that you've killed. You've taken far more lives than those 4 officers did. How do you justify that? You bunch of fucking assholes. And you're pulling down and vandalising statues over here. You're defacing statues of Winston Churchill. Oh, he was a racist, he did this, he did that, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, he did some bad shit. Why don't you talk about the good shit that he did as well? Huh? Why don't you talk about that? Does that somehow harm your narrative? Does that somehow harm your anger? Oh, he did this in the past. Yes, he did that in the past. But what else did he do? He took the fight against Nazis. The actual Nazis. And you think because he said some things that somehow that doesn't matter anymore. Guarantee a lot of the people you hold up as heroes have said the same kind of shit. Now let's talk about Edward Colston, the statue that was pulled down in Bristol. Edward Colston was a slave trader. He was. He made a lot of money from the slave trade. Where did that money go? Into schools, hospitals, poorhouses, churches. A lot of charity work with that money. If you're going to tear down his statues because he was a slave trader, pull down the rest of the buildings and destroy those institutions too. Because if you can't have a slave trader have any kind of praise, you cannot allow those hospitals, those schools, those churches, those poorhouses, you cannot allow them to continue. Now I know there's no poorhouses as such these days, but you cannot say this man must be vilified and not take away the good that he did with that money. And I hear a lot of you saying, oh, these people that are saying that it's bad to pull down this statue, they were all cheering when Saddam Hussein's statue was pulled down. Yeah, the army pulled that down and everybody cheered. Okay, you're talking fucking apples and oranges, mate. Colston was a slave trader. Did people die on the ships coming over here? Yes. That happened. That happened with a lot of slaves. That happened with a lot of other people. Voyages in those days were dangerous. But he didn't kill them on purpose. Did he sell them into slavery? Yes. Did he make money off of them? Yes. Did he kill them purposefully? No. Saddam Hussein was a fucking murderous bastard. Mass murdering dictator. The two are very different things. And you say, oh, the US Army pulled down his statue. Yes, they did. At the request of the Iraqi people. Actually read something, folks, and you'll find that the civilians were trying to take down that statue before the army arrived on the scene. They had a bloke pounding on it with a sledgehammer, trying to bring it down. The army arrived, secured the area, spoke to the people, and at the people's request, pulled down the statue of the person that had made their lives a fucking living hell. Now you can argue that, oh, but slavery made their lives a living hell. No, not really. They were fed, watered, whatever you want to call it. They were taken care of because a dead slave was no good to anybody. Now, I don't condone slavery. I don't condone owning another living person, forcing them to work. But they were taken care of. Saddam Hussein gassed people for disagreeing with him. So yes, people cheered when his statue came down because it was the end of a brutal regime. People are pissed at you pulling down a statue in the UK nearly 2 weeks after the death of George Floyd, nearly 2 weeks after the riots and protests in the US started. And in the last couple of days, the UK has suddenly decided, oh, we've got to do this as well. Yes, let's make an example of... Who can we make an example of? Oh, shit. Let's pull down this statue. He was a slave trader. Yeah. You fucking idiots. Absolute fucking idiots. Like I said, you're gonna pull down his statue, pull down the buildings that he funded, pull down the institutions that he funded. Because that all came from money from the slave trade. Do it, fuckers. Live up to your convictions. As a wise bullshitter says, if you believe it every day. You want to call out this man for being a slave trader? Call him out. Call out those institutions as well that took his dirty money. Don't sit there and tell me that he was the same as an insane, evil dictator who murdered You want to sit there and tell me that a man who made money from something that was common at the time, deplorable as it was common. He made money from that, and he used that money to fund schools, hospitals, poorhouses, churches. I don't defend the slave trade, but if you're gonna pull down a statue, you pull down those buildings. You undo all the work he did. Same with Churchill. Expunge him from the history books. He was never Prime Minister. He never took the fight to the Nazis. He never led this country through a war. Erase him from the record books. Just as you've erased David Underwood and David Dawn. You've ignored the deaths of people at your hands, all the while shouting, Black Lives Matter. I guess they only matter when it's your life. When it's somebody that you see as on the right side of things. A federal officer and a retired police captain, protecting innocent people and buildings from rioters, from looters, from vandalizers, were gunned down by the very same people who claim Black Lives Matter, unless they're not on our side. I'll say those names again. David Underwood, David Dawn. You murdered those men. You did that. Not racists, not fascists, not police officers. You murdered 2 black men. And you don't care. But Black Lives Matter.